Welcome back, everyone. Thanks for joining me. Today I'm going to continue the trend of smashing a couple different universes together, and what I want to do is take this high-grade Nobel Gundam and give it a new paint job to reflect potentially Pepper Potts' new suit, probably Rescue in the new upcoming Avengers Endgame movie. So let's get started. Okay, so let's take a closer look here. One thing that we should take note of is that this is clearly meant to be more of a ground-based suit, and therefore it's going to be a little bit more difficult to make it look like something that can fly whenever it wants. However, I think we can kind of mess with that a little bit because Iron Man suits pretty much don't have wings or anything associated with them. It's usually all done through boosters. So one thing I definitely want to add is I want to add some boosters on at least the feet and probably the hands too. And then I want to take the hair and then the little hair pieces that come down on the side of the face, and I want to make those more red like Pepper Potts' hair. And I want to take that circle in the middle of the bow there on the chest, and I want to make that into more of an arc reactor, so kind of a probably blue sort of look. And I'm going to go with the stereotypical kind of silver and red color, I think, for an Iron Man suit, although there's different colors out there for what people imagine her MCU version of the rescue suit will look like. But I think I'm going to go ahead and stick with the silver, probably a chrome silver, and probably a relatively dark red as we go through the project.
Okay, so now I've gotten it all apart, and all I need to do is get a layer of primer down, and then we can start doing the actual painting here. Okay, so we've got everything primered, and now I think what I'm going to do is I think I'm going to go ahead and paint almost everything black to begin with. I probably won't do that on the face, maybe a couple other areas, but given that I think most of the project I'm going to do in a silver or in a red, and if you think about Iron Man's red, it's usually a pretty dark red, so I'm just going to count that as pre-shading for those red parts, and silver always looks better when you have a undercoat of some color, usually a darker color. So I think I'll just go with a flat black behind everything, and then I'll probably do the chrome silver, and for the red I'll probably go ahead and do gloss red as well. Again, I think when you usually think of Iron Man, you usually think of a more glossy color, so I think that's what I'll probably try to go with. I think for the most part I did a pretty good job on the sand work on the pieces. There's always a few things you could improve here and there, but we'll come back when we start painting the colors here. Alright, well, I've got most of the pieces painted in the black that I wanted to paint them in. You'll notice I left a few painted with just the primer. I've got some ideas for what I want to do. For instance, back here in the back, we can see that there's both this piece, which is the hair, I guess, on the Nobel Gundam, which I am going to paint a little bit differently than the rest of the kit. That'll be the same with this face part, so the face parts where kind of got the hair coming out of the sides of the helmet, and then I'm going to do something a little bit different on the bows. I'm going to kind of treat those as if they are the arc reactors from the Iron Man suit. If it'll focus, there we go. So I'm going to paint them a little bit differently, probably just end up painting them by hand. They're small enough that it's not too much of an ordeal. There's a couple of those. There's that small bow that goes on the back, and then the larger bow that goes on the front here. So I'm going to go ahead and paint those a little bit differently, kind of get those separated from the rest of the mech, or the suit as what it will be when it gets done. And then I'll probably just hand paint the eyes. I want to have the eyes kind of similar to the scheme that I'm going to have the arc reactors. And so if I went ahead and painted that black, even though I do want the face to be silver underneath, obviously then I would have to go back over and paint the eyes, so it'd be easier if I just go ahead and paint the eyes and then either mask them off or just go ahead and hand paint the whole face. I'll probably just hand paint it, probably a little bit simpler. But other than that, now we're going to move on to the painting the red and the silver. So I probably will go ahead and do the gloss red and chrome silver. I had actually thought, so I'll probably just go ahead and do the Tamiya gloss red there, and then the chrome silver. I thought I might do chrome over the entire thing and then do clear red over the parts that I wanted to be red, but I think that would be too much metallic. The entire suit would effectively be metallic, so I think I'll probably go ahead and do some chrome silver and some gloss red instead to kind of break it up a little bit more, and then I'll come back and show you guys what that looks like, and then we'll go on to some of the more individualized parts here.
Okay, and here is the rescue suit that I have painted, and I'm happy with how it came out. I think that I did a pretty good job. One thing I will say is that, as with all plans, some parts of this didn't work out as well as I had hoped they would. For instance, some of the parts that were already pretty dark on the original figure, and then with the primer and then the black paint, the red paint's kind of reabsorbed into them, so it's not, all the red didn't come out exactly the same color. However, I still think it adds character to it, and I think it works perfectly fine on the suit as a whole. Another thing is I had originally painted the hair, the mech hair, more like matte orange, and even tried to do some like pink highlights. Try to be more like human hair, since again this is supposed to be more of a suit for Pepper Potts rather than Gundam, a mech itself. But it just really didn't look right. It didn't look well with the rest of the gloss and the metallic look on the rest of the suit. So what I ended up doing was I ended up chrome silvering the rest of the hair, and then I went over that with a clear orange to give it a metallic orange look on those hair and face pieces. And I really like how that turned out. Another thing that I kind of had started to originally do is I was kind of hoping to do like a light blue, almost a white in the middle of the arc reactor, and kind of fade out on the bow and the chest like it was full of energy. But again, it didn't look right. Whether it was gloss white or matte white, it just didn't look right. So I went ahead and just did a silver over that, and then hand painted the blue in the center, and I painted the blue for the eyes. And overall, I'm really happy with how it came out. The booster effects are from some little Transformers kits. I just happened to be looking around through some Transformers figures, and I saw that those effect parts could work really well for the boosters. I have painted them a little bit, so they do look better, in my opinion, than the way you get them fresh out of the package. But it wasn't too much. It was just a little bit of adding some darker orange shading on the ones on the bottom, and then some darker red shading on the ones on the top, so it gives them kind of a little bit more contrast than just some plain plastic. And how I applied those was I just drilled small holes in her feet and her hands, and then I just added some small brass bars so that you could just plug those pieces in when you wanted them, and they could pop out whenever you don't. So again, you can see her standing on the ground here without those effect parts in. But again, I think she came out really, really nice. And thanks for viewing. I really appreciate your time.